The rain had soaked through every thread of Mason Reed's clothes, but he barely felt the cold anymore. He was on his knees outside the emergency room, clutching a small envelope containing the last $73 he had in the world, while his mother lay inside fighting for her life. The doctor had just told him that she needed an emergency operation, and without the money, there was nothing more the hospital could do. Mason looked through the glass doors at the woman who had sacrificed everything for him, and for the first time in his life, the man who had always promised to protect his mother felt completely helpless. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one small act can change someone's entire life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your comment might remind someone on the other side of the world that kindness still exists. Mason had spent the last 6 months working whatever jobs he could find. He unloaded trucks before sunrise, cleaned restaurant kitchens late at night, and sometimes slept only 3 or 4 hours before starting again. His mother, Evelyn Reed, had raised him alone after his father disappeared when Mason was 8. She had worked as a school cafeteria worker for nearly 30 years, always coming home exhausted but somehow finding enough energy to make her son feel safe. When Mason lost his construction job after the company shut down, he promised her that things would get better. But then Evelyn collapsed in their tiny apartment one morning, and the doctors discovered a dangerous condition that required immediate surgery. Mason sold almost everything they owned. His old television, his tools, his motorcycle, even the wedding ring his mother had kept from his late grandmother. He borrowed money from co-workers and neighbors until nobody had anything left to lend. Still, the hospital bill remained far beyond what he could afford. That night, after being told the surgery could not begin without payment, Mason rushed outside into the rain and begged the doctor to reconsider. Dr. Celeste Morgan watched him trembling beneath the emergency room lights, his hands shaking as he held out every dollar he had. She could see the desperation in his eyes, but hospital rules were hospital rules. She promised to speak with administration, yet even she knew time was running out. Then a black luxury sedan rolled quietly into the hospital driveway. Nobody paid much attention at first. Expensive cars came and went outside the city's largest hospital every day. But this one stopped directly beside the emergency entrance, and a tall man in a dark suit stepped out. His name was Everett Hawthorne, a billionaire known across the city for owning one of the country's largest technology companies. He had come to the hospital for a private medical appointment, but as he walked toward the entrance, he noticed Mason kneeling near the curb, soaked, exhausted, and holding a stack of crumpled bills. Everett stopped. He watched Mason wipe his face and stare through the glass at his mother. Something about that sight froze the billionaire in place. Years earlier, Everett had been poor too. He remembered sleeping in his father's broken delivery van after losing their home. He remembered his own mother working double shifts while pretending she wasn't tired. But most of all, he remembered the one stranger who had paid for his mother's medicine when Everett was just 17. That single act of kindness had changed the direction of his entire life. Everett walked toward Mason and quietly asked what had happened. Mason initially refused to believe the stranger could help. He explained everything, expecting another polite promise or sympathetic look. Instead, Everett looked at the envelope containing the $73 and then at Mason's exhausted face. He reached into his jacket, pulled out his phone, and made one call to his financial office. Within minutes, the hospital administrator arrived, and the surgery was authorized. Mason stood completely still as he realized what was happening. He tried to thank Everett, but the words disappeared behind his tears. Everett simply told him that his mother should never have to pay for a chance to live when someone had the ability to help. The billionaire didn't stop at the surgery. He arranged for Evelyn's medical expenses to be covered during her recovery and quietly created a job opportunity for Mason at one of his companies, giving him a stable income and health insurance. Hours later, Dr. Celeste finally walked out of the operating room. Evelyn had survived. Mason collapsed into a chair, covering his face as the weight of the entire night finally broke through him. When he looked up, Everett was still there. The billionaire could have left hours earlier, but he stayed because he wanted Mason to know that sometimes the greatest wealth a person can possess isn't money. It's the ability to remember what it felt like to need someone. Months later, Evelyn recovered enough to walk again. Mason accepted the job and slowly rebuilt his life. But he never forgot the night a billionaire stepped out of a car and saw him not as a poor stranger, but as a human being who deserved a second chance. And Mason eventually discovered something even more beautiful. Everett's mother, the woman who had once helped Everett when he was a teenager, had taught him the exact same lesson: kindness doesn't become smaller when you give it away. It grows. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes people can change lives through kindness, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more stories that remind us never to lose hope. Before we end, I want you to leave one special comment: kindness always comes back. Let those words be a reminder that somewhere, someone may be struggling silently and waiting for one person to care. Because sometimes, a person doesn't need a miracle. Sometimes, they just need someone to stop, look at them, and say through their actions, "You are not alone."